Hey yo, it's Justin back at it again. As you can tell from my voice, I'm incredibly tired and will still be tired going into the end of the day. So I'm spending my Pomodoro break recording this real quick because it's been on my mind since talking about front end development in the last video. Um, in this case, I'm talking about JavaScript. I know I said I was going to do databases, but I lied because I wanted to do a quick rant on this, and my Pomodoro break is not that long. All right, so let's get right into it. If you've talked to me about going into the programming space, then by now you should know that I'm a broken record when it comes to recommending JavaScript as the language of choice for you to learn. The short TLDR is that the creation of new JavaScript libraries and frameworks that just make the semantics of an already structurally friendly and readable language even more accessible and of ease of use is why this language is so popular and has been among the most popular for quite a few years now. If I bring up an insights metrics on languages, we can see here how JS type languages essentially dominate the sphere. So here it is. If I were to scroll down and just this is actually a really cool metrics chart. Stack Overflow does these just about every year, and if you're a programmer of any level, you know how clutch Stack Overflow is. So I kind of these are not the metrics I want. This is more demographics. Here it is, technology. This is what I want. So in terms of most popular technologies, we have JavaScript, HTML, CSS, right? Front end, Node, and TypeScript are kind of below it, but front end languages are essentially how it denotes how popular uh just this end is. I know I kind of said that wrong, sorry. Or to go on to professional developers even more, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, TypeScript, Node.js. What does this signify essentially? This signifies the importance of front end, how web-based and mobile, but web-based in this case, applications and softwares are incredibly important, and rightfully so, because I mean, this website I am on right now, it's a web-based, software, or it's a website. It's web-based. JavaScript runs all of this. When you go on Google Chrome, it runs on JavaScript. If you go on Mozilla Firefox or whatever your browser of choice is, if you go on any website, it is JavaScript based, at least on the client side, at least on the front end. If I were to scroll even more down, so here's databases, that's not really important. Cloud-based, not really important for what we want. Here's web-based frameworks. So essentially, um, if it has a .js, that kind of signifies it's either a framework or library of JS or JavaScript, right? So React.js is the most popular for all respondents. If we were to professional developers, it's still the same. React is the most popular framework for JavaScript at the moment, and JavaScript is the most popular language. If we were to go down even further, here's Git. Everyone uses Git. Yarn's really cool too. VSC, Visual Studio Code, as our IDEs. It's not necessarily an IDE though; it's more a code editor. So that's kind of misleading. Operating systems. This is surprising to me. I would have assumed more people ran Mac OS, but it seems that there is a lot of Windows developers. Albeit I am a window, or my setup is Windows based, but not for long. um, Here we are. So we're on programming, scripting, and markup languages. This is incredibly important. So here's a loved versus dreaded chart. It doesn't really give us as much insight on whether something is like super popular or not, but it just goes to show you just like how friendly a language is. Apparently a lot of people love Rust and only 13% hate it. TypeScript is here. So roughly 73% of people love TypeScript. Um, I think you love TypeScript when understand how TypeScript operates. But when you first onboard onto TypeScript, then it's pretty hard to use, especially if you're used to using JavaScript. But yeah, this it's 73% of people love TypeScript. Go all the way down. Here's JavaScript. 61% of people like JavaScript. 60% like HTML and CSS. These two are basically roughly around the same boat. You need to know HTML and CSS in order to learn JavaScript. Now let's go on wants. So it says program scripting and markup languages. So this is a scripting language. Python's incredibly important in terms of scripting, in terms of like AI, stuff like that, machine learning. But right under it, TypeScript and JavaScript and Node.js doesn't fall that far behind the other two. It just goes to show you how relevant front end is right now. But yeah, specifically, I just want to show how JS type languages essentially dominate the sphere. TypeScript, JS, Node always rank incredibly highly. Specifically, the end-to-end functionality that JavaScript brings into front-end development is incredibly impactful. Just note this. Being able to develop full-on applications and software through the use of just one programming language, handling everything from server-side to client-side operations is huge. You wouldn't need developers learning multiple languages or frameworks in order to work on a specific portion of your application or software. Workflow is now parallel across your entire team now. This is a point I want to emphasize, especially if you're branching into mobile app development, since you wouldn't need a stack of Swift slash Objective C for iOS and Java slash Kotlin for Android. Everything can be now run through a framework like React Native for cross-platform functionality. And if you want a little more insight on that, I actually have a React Native transfer crash course, whatever you want to call it, video that I have posted up in hashtag videos that I made roughly around last year, September of last year. So it's 3 hours long, but if you want like a general overview of cross platform mobile app development, then just check out the first like 20 minutes or so of the intro. Yeah. But with that out of the way, this also means that the workflow of your team isn't inhibited by each developer setup. What I mean by this is that iOS development through Swift or Objective-C can only be run through iOS machines like a MacBook. This means your developers on a Windows setup cannot contribute to that part of the code base, even if they wanted to. I know when I say applications, the immediate term that comes to mind is mobile app, since we usually refer to applications as apps. However, there's a reason why it's called a mobile app, because there also exists web applications, which JavaScript was essentially made for. The web, which is something we utilize quite heavily, the web is something we utilize quite heavily when we turn on our computers and go to Chrome to go on all these websites. They're all based on JavaScript in some form or fashion. YouTube to watch videos, JavaScript is used as the front end in order for you to see all the videos on the screen on your feed. Twitter to look at your feed, JavaScript. All the practical functionality and design and how we physically operate the application on the front end is JavaScript. If I look up client-side stack for the most popular website, I wonder what we'll say. So let me bring that up real quick. Boom, here it is. JavaScript, front end, JavaScript. JavaScript, all front end client side, right? That's not to say that it's only used in the front end. As I said earlier, JS can be used on the server side as well, specifically through Node.js, which I won't really go into detail on. For example, applications like LinkedIn, Netflix, Uber are among the few that utilize JS fully on both sides of the stack. So the question to be asked is, if I do put all this time and effort into learning JavaScript, learning TypeScript, learning React or Angular or Vue, how long will this realistically last me before I become obsolete? This is a fair sentiment to have because the tech industry is continuously evolving with new languages, new libraries, new frameworks being created almost what seems like every other day in order to be more optimized for a certain operation that maybe another one of his contemporaries just doesn't have or do well. I can't give you an exact answer. React might be the most popular JS framework right now, but who's to say in 3 to 5 years that React just becomes obsolete? What I can tell you, though, is what you gain from the process of learning a language, learning the intricacies and operations of the industry, will bring you so much farther than the language or the library or the framework itself. At the end of the day, programming is synonymous no matter what language you're using. It's just different syntax. It's really just about the way your mind operates, how you're able to take in the information and put your magic to work in order to create whatever you're going to create. Following trends is always really good. A gamer-esque term for this would be following the meta. What is the meta in terms of programming languages? Front end is the meta right now, and the most popular language in front end happens to be JavaScript. The most popular framework happens to be React. That can change at any given moment, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the mechanics you learned in general go away. But yeah, keep up the grind, y'all. I need to go back to work. Ha 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 ha. Do not copyright strike me, Facebook. I meant Meta. JK, this is an unlisted video, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, stay fresh and peace out.